The chill in the air sliced through my jacket as I stood on the dimly lit street corner, nervously glancing at my phone. It was around 5 p.m. on a winter day, so it got dark pretty quick, and it wasn't the best time for a girl to be alone out on the streets. I checked the time once again, my breath visible in the cold night. He was late, and my excitement was slowly morphing into anxiety. I began to wonder if he had bailed on me without saying anything. Finally, a figure emerged from the shadows, and my heart skipped a beat. "Hey there," he said with a smile, extending his hand. His name was Alex, the guy I had been chatting with on Tinder for the past few weeks. His profile seemed genuine, and his messages had a charming wit to them. Despite my initial unease, we decided to grab a coffee at a nearby cafe. The quaint atmosphere inside provided a much-needed warmth, but my nerves persisted. As we sipped our lattes, conversation flowed effortlessly. He had a magnetic presence, and his stories kept me captivated. He seemed like a really sweet guy. As the night progressed, Alex suggested we take a stroll through a nearby park. I was supposed to head home after our time at the cafe, but he seemed nice, so I agreed to extend my date. The moon cast imposing shadows on the deserted pathways, but his company made the darkness seem less ominous. We laughed and exchanged anecdotes, the initial awkwardness giving way to genuine enjoyment. I started to really like this guy. He was everything I was looking for. He was tall, handsome, charming, and had a good job, or so he claimed. However, my sense of unease resurfaced when he suggested we venture off the well-lit paths into a more secluded area of the park. I hesitated, my instincts warning me, but he reassured me it was a shortcut back to the main road. Against my better judgment and probably hardy eyes, I agreed. The deeper we walked into the dimly lit groves, the more my anxiety intensified. The rustling leaves and distant hooting of an owl created an unsettling symphony. We just kept walking and walking for a good few minutes. At one point, I realized that we were heading away from the way to the main road, and I began to worry. Suddenly, Alex stopped and turned to face me, his demeanor shifting. His smile morphed into a sinister grin, and my heart rate rapidly sped up. "I knew you'd be perfect," he said, his voice now carrying an unsettling edge. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for my phone, contemplating making a run for it. Before I could react, he lunged at me with a cloth in his hand, his intentions clear. He grabbed my arm with one of his hands and put the cloth to my face with the other. I didn't give him a chance to securely put it around my mouth and nose as I kept struggling with him, because I knew if that cloth stays on my face for too long, I'm fucked. During the struggle, I reached into my jeans and pulled out my pepper spray. As soon as I got a good grip on it, I sprayed the fuck out of his eyes and made a run for it. Adrenaline fueled my escape, and I sprinted through the darkness trying to remember where we came from, my heart pounding in my chest. As I emerged from the park, gasping for breath, I looked back to see Alex disappearing into the shadows. I rushed to a nearby gas station where the attendant called the police. After calming down, I realized how lucky I got. The guy was like 6'4", and I was a measly 5'5". Maybe the self-defense classes my mom signed me up for as a kid saved my life. The following days were a blur of interviews, but the authorities couldn't locate Alex, and he seemed to have vanished without a trace. I was pretty pissed about this, as this shit happens to girls all the time, and the authorities can never do anything about it. In the aftermath of that harrowing night, I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, haunted by the memory of Alex's sinister grin. The incident left me grappling with a newfound paranoia, questioning every interaction and second-guessing the intentions of those around me. The police conducted a thorough investigation, but their efforts to locate him proved futile. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the chilling imprint of his presence. I left them my number and urged to update me on the case. Around 3 months later, seemingly out of nowhere, I received a call. It was from an investigator named Richard. He had informed me that they caught Alex after he tried to do the same thing to another girl in the exact same park. I was both shocked, happy, and disgusted at the same time, but at least he was finally caught. After I asked a few more questions, the investigator told me that Alex was actually Michael Whiteman, and he was part of a human trafficking ring and that they were in the process of taking down. He told me to consider myself lucky, because there were 11 other girls that they haven't found yet connected to the case. All of this information was pretty overwhelming to me. A mixture of emotions went through me and I began to cry. The investigator asked for some final cooperation from me to ensure there is as much evidence against Alex or Michael as possible. I obviously agreed, and am currently awaiting to attend court and testify against him. I won't lie, as the date draws closer, I get more and more anxious as there's just something surreal about coming face to face with your attempted kidnapped once again. For now, I'm glad he's behind bars. This should go without saying, but girls, please be careful out there. You never know if someone is who they say they are. And as the old saying goes, if it is too good to be true, then it most likely is. The glow of my phone illuminated the dark room as I swiped through Tinder, searching for a connection in the vast sea of profiles. I've had some success in the past, partly down to my good looks and conversation, but partly down to the fact that I showed off all my stuff on Tinder like my Porsche and expensive watches. I knew girls liked money, so I used it to my advantage. Eventually, a match caught my eye. Sarah, with her striking blue eyes and a captivating smile and her amazing body, seemed like the perfect match. Excitement surged as we exchanged messages, the conversation growing increasingly engaging. Sarah suggested meeting at a local pub, claiming she preferred face-to-face conversations over prolonged messaging. Eager to break free from the digital realm, I agreed to the rendezvous. Little did I know I was stepping into a nightmarish trap that no amount of swiping could have prepared me for. As I entered the dimly lit pub, a sense of anticipation and nervousness gripped me. My eyes scanned the room until they locked onto a woman who matched Sarah's profile picture. She waved me over, and her smile mirrored the one I had seen on my phone screen. A quick glance around revealed nothing out of the ordinary, so I approached with cautious optimism. We exchanged pleasantries, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. Sarah seemed genuine, sharing stories that resonated with humor and warmth. I was attracted to her even more because of her personality and how feminine she seemed. As the night progressed, she suggested continuing the conversation at her place, insisting it was a more comfortable environment for genuine connection. Torn between caution and the desire for a real connection, I agreed to accompany her. We hailed a rideshare and arrived at a seemingly quiet residential area. Sarah led me to a nondescript apartment building, and my apprehension grew as we climbed the stairs to her unit. Upon entering, I noticed the atmosphere shift. The air felt heavy with an underlying tension, and an uneasy feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. It was then that I realized something was amiss. Sarah's demeanor transformed from friendly to cold, and I sensed the presence of someone else in the shadows. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, and I turned to see two large masked men emerging from the darkness. My heart raced as the reality of the situation unfolded. This wasn't the night of connection I had hoped for. It was a meticulously planned trap. It was a fucking setup. Now, I stand at 6'1" and 220 pounds, so I'm not small myself, but these guys towered over me. I looked down and I saw that one was holding a hammer and the other was holding a long kitchen knife. My mind raced to comprehend the danger I was facing. Sarah, or whoever she really was, revealed her true intentions. The catfish profile had been a facade to lure unsuspecting victims into a sinister plot. Panic surged as they demanded valuables, threatening violence if I didn't comply. I scanned around, but I knew I was fucked. They were blocking the only door that would lead me out. What's worse is that I usually conceal carry, but I thought it may seem a little much if I carried a gun onto a date. Desperation set in when the one on the left pointed the knife at my throat, and I handed over my belongings, watching helplessly as they rifled through my pockets. They took my phone, my wallet with around $400 in it, and my watch worth around $5,500. The fear in their eyes mirrored my own, but for different reasons. As the masked men collected their spoils, they warned me not to involve the authorities before telling me to get the fuck out of the house. Shaken and disoriented, I stumbled out of the apartment, gasping for air since my breath finally caught up to my heart. The cold reality of the world I had plunged into through a seemingly innocent Tinder match left me scarred. I felt so fucking useless in that situation, and I was pissed off I couldn't do anything. At least I left with my life, though, which was the most important thing. Valuables can be replaced, but a life can't. I have attached a photo of the girl from my date. This was the only picture we took together, and it took a lot of convincing to take it. and now I know why. If anyone ever comes across this woman, be careful. Don't end up like me.